Shalom Akim. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, for allowing me to do another lesson. Yahweh is who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, and there is no God beside him. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the elect. And this lesson is going to go into this article I came across going into U.S. Army guerrilla warfare exercise to target freedom fighters. Now it says the U.S. Army is set to conduct a guerrilla warfare exercise later this month in North Carolina, where troops will battle against freedom fighters. Right now, I'm thinking this is a code name for something else. However, this article goes into those freedom fighters actually being civilians, right? So it says just really the 2-week unconventional warfare exercise will take from January 22nd through February 4th on privately owned land in a remote location which remains unknown. You know, kind of reminds me of the exercise Jade Helm. You know, and these devils do plan on using these tactics. You know, they don't spend thousands of hours and thousands of dollars, you know, wasting ammo for nothing. Nah, they plan on using these tactics. For the scenario is going to be Jacob's trouble, right? And a part of Jacob's trouble is these other nations invading America, which I'm going to get into in a bit. But going into this article, it says called Robin Sage. The exercise serves as a final test for Special Forces qualification course training, and it places candidates in a politically unstable country known as Pineland. These military members act as realistic opposing forces and guerrilla freedom fighters, also known as Pineland Resistance Movement, said the U.S. Army John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center. Information about the exercise was provided to the media in a bid to avoid civilians confusing the drills with actual terrorist attacks or warfare, which has happened before. I believe over there in Florida, they was doing so-called drills, you know, which people noticed and got scared, you know, naturally. So it says, it will be realistic enough to include the sounds of gunfire, blanks, and flares, said the center. As Chris Manahan notes, a similar Robin Sage exercise in 2019 showed resistance fighters displaying a flag that says liberty. They could tell these soldiers they're battling the Chinese, Russians, Iranians, North Koreans, or other foreign enemies, but instead they had them training to kill freedom fighters with liberty flags. You know? Which, like I said, I believe, in my personal opinion, this is actually just that. However, we shall see. You know? Because really both scenarios are gonna come true. You know, them fighting them fighting inland, you know, civilians, you know, that's not what the shits over in their own land, America, as well as you know, the foreign troops outside of America. The exercise will do little to dampen concerns that the Biden administration is launching a de facto domestic war on terror, targeting patriots and Trump supporters. Right? And for some reason, they keep bringing up that January 6th incident that happened last year. Following, as we see, the Capitol riot, Democrats ludicrously compared the event to September 11th in an attempt to justly using federal resources that would normally be focused on actual terrorists against American conservatives, right? Because this devil wants to come down, and soon enough he will, as the scripture say in Revelations 12:12. He shall come down knowing that he had but a short time, right? The scriptures say that he will come down destroying, and not pitying old or young. The exercise will do little to dampen concerns. Okay, I read that. Earlier this month, the Justice Department created a new specialized unit focused on domestic in response to an elevated threat from violence in the U.S. Some words I gotta blank out and let you read it, because if you are new to YouTube or to watching our videos, everything is censored. So it says, however, polls show that Americans are split on who represents the biggest threat, particularly after the Waukesha attack, its subsequent cover-up, in addition to the fact that left-wing extreme spent much of 2020 rioting and burning down American cities. Now, I believe that attack was on a synagogue over there in Texas. Let me look that up. Oh, okay, that was in Wisconsin. But it was something recent that happened in Texas too, where there was a it was a hostage situation over there in Texas. So I don't know. I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't know how they going turn that one, because they're gonna have to find somebody to blame. They're gonna have to find some patsy, whether it be a so-called black Hebrew Israelite. It's gonna be somebody that they're gonna use to further their agenda, which they have legislation such as Jade Helm, that they've been practicing, Project Megiddo, right, which is literally for you tribes, Rex 84, all of that. So it says following the January 6th incident, Army General Mark Miley, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, said he wanted to understand white rage, although an interest in understanding black rage after a sustained period of violent mayhem caused by Black Lives Matter protest wasn't seemingly of any importance. And as I read this, it's fitting how you had the Black Lives Matter thing, which those that were in the know, that was actually orchestrated by Esau Edom, the so-called white man, and violence was happening through him, right? But that's their way of saying, blacks are violent. But then you had the January 6th thing, which is predominantly Edomites, right? So in essence, they're saying this country is full of violence, and we got to do something about it. In the age of mass Silicon Valley censorship, it is crucial that we stay in touch. I need you to sign up for oh, okay, that's some other crap. But anyway, like I said, they see it as these devils, the military's training to fight civilians. That's not what the shits. But through the spirit, which is all through the spirit, I went to go look up freedom fighters just to see what it mean. I actually thought it was gonna go into, because you got a movie called Freedom Fighters, and then you got I actually thought it was actually gonna go into civilians who fight for their rights and everything like that. But through the spirit, peep this, it says, Freedom Fighters is a 2003 third-person shooter video game for PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox, and Microsoft Windows. It was developed by IO Interactive and published by Electronic Arts. The game is set in an alternate history where the Soviet Union has invaded and occupied New York City. Right? Now, with all this going on, we gotta remember what's going over there in Ukraine. Right? Basically, Russia feels that, NATO is trying to recruit Ukraine into NATO. But Russia damn sure ain't having that, So what they're doing is they basically got their troops lined up at the border, all right, preparing for NATO to try to come up in there and do their thing, come up in there and take over. And of course, America, what America is doing to paint Russia as the victim is, I believe they're saying that they basically send like spies in there to I forgot what was the reasoning. I was just looking at a video, but I believe, they were saying that America sent spies. Let me see, what video was I watching? I was just watching a video on it. I think it's this one. Let's check this one out, see what it says.
Escalating between NATO and Russia over a military buildup at the Ukrainian border. High-stakes talks in Europe ended in an impasse last week after NATO rejected several of Russia's demands, including a promise that Ukraine never be allowed to join the alliance. Moscow hasn't made any recent moves to pull back its troops from the border, and the U.S. also accused Russia of deploying operatives to Ukraine to carry out acts of sabotage in a false flag operation as a
Right. Now, why America is so, worried about everybody else's problem is, what's actually scriptural. There's scripture saying, was that Habakkuk? He keep him not at home, but enlargeth his desire as hell. And that's where that NATO alliance came to basically cut off Russia and his power. But now Russia's basically sick of it, and this is where this tension is coming at. And when you go into the story, Russia's saying that they initiated peace talks, but NATO rejected it. And the scriptures in Matthew 24, when the disciples asked Yahushua, what shall be the sign of the coming of thy times? And one of the things Yahushua, who the word normally called Jesus Christ, said is that there shall be wars and rumors of wars. Now we understand that these are just rumors because nothing has actually happened, and there won't be missiles shot off until the MOTB is pushed out, which is the RFID, CHIP, the RFID CHIP. However, prior to the icing on the cake, the missiles being shot off, the scriptures speak of in Ezekiel 38, and which you could start from the top, and it's talking about Gog and Magog, which is modern day Russia, how the Most High is going to turn them back into that Soviet-like state, to where they're going to, disregard peace talks and just move like the bear that they are. As we see in other news, that they're backing up Iran and Turkey. They doing war, not war talks, but doing alliances with Turkey, China, like I said, Iran, which is also scriptural. But other scriptures speak of how in Ezekiel 38, how the Lord, it says right here, Ezekiel 38 verse 10, thus saith the Lord God, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Right? So it's going to come a time when you're not going to be able to talk Putin down. And it may be, what it's seeming like, is going to be the point of provocation, as America is constantly always, which basically America runs NATO, is always provoking Russia. So it's going to come a situation where they're literally going to come in here and wreck shop. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. Right? Unwalled villages meaning a defenseless land. And in comparison to Russia's hypersonic missiles and the different aircraft, America's defenseless towards it. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely. Right? These Americans, out of everybody in the world that's rioting and they see what's going on, Americans are still dwelling safely. They still sleeping, they still doing these dumbass challenges. They still got their head in Instagram, all this bullshit. The hot topic in the YouTube world now, amongst 2/3, is who is it? Brittany Reiner and Fresh and Fit, all that bullshit. Right? But it says, I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Right? So the Most High is going to put it in the minds of these devils to see red, so to speak. Right? Let's keep going.
Pretext, tell us about these meetings.
Good morning. Yeah, the U.S. delegation is currently in Kiev meeting with President Zelensky and Ukrainian officials in basically a public show of support. They've promised in meetings to Ukrainian officials that they will provide Ukraine with lethal weapons if needed. They're very alarmed by this Russian massing of troops nearby. And they also promised solidarity with Ukraine. I'm going to read one of the senators said that we will give the people of Ukraine the arms, lethal arms, if they need to defend their lives and livelihoods. And they've described that if Vladimir Putin decides to invade Ukraine, he will be making a big mistake, one of the biggest mistakes in his career, one of the senators said. And we also know that the confirmation just came that U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is also coming to Kiev this week. So U.S. is definitely taking a lot of steps to show this public support to Ukraine.
So Russian forces and equipment have begun arriving in Belarus, near Poland and Lithuania along the Ukrainian border, which could prove another pathway for an invasion. For a country that says they have no interest in invading Ukraine, surely is a curious move to make. Is Russia explaining why troops are being moved there? And just how does this change the situation?
Yeah, Russia and Belarus have explained this exercise as this check of their readiness of their forces to protect the Union state. This is how they call their sort of this joint state and union that they've created. And they're saying that, this is a response to various foreign threats and possible terrorist threats. And the way they sort of announce these drills is quite interesting, because President Lukashenko said that he is being concerned about Ukrainian buildup near his border. So this is sort of an answer to that as well. And the drills are expected to take place in mid-February near Polish and Lithuanian borders, which is obviously concerning to the EU because it's happening right on their doorstep. And it's one of the biggest joint drills that Russia and Ukraine have staged so far. We know that for the first time, military troops, Russian troops from Eastern military district are taking part. So this is sort of an answer union that they've created. And they're saying that, this is a response to various foreign threats and possible terrorist threats. And the way they sort of announce these drills is quite interesting because President Lukashenko said that he is being concerned about Ukrainian buildup near his borders. So this is sort of an answer to that as well. And the drills are expected to take place in mid-February near Polish and Lithuanian borders, which is obviously concerning to the EU because it's happening right on their doorstep. And it's one of the biggest joint drills that Russia and Ukraine have staged so far. We know that for the first time, military troops, Russian troops from Eastern military district are taking part. So obviously they presented as self-defense and training, but optically, from an optics point of view, it's obviously very alarming given everything that was going on with Ukraine.
So in the past, Western nations have offered or pledged sort of defensive support to Ukraine. And the UK has announced that it's sending some troops and some anti-tank missiles to Ukraine. Is this sort of the gist of the type of support that Western nations are offering Ukraine in the middle of this escalation?
Yeah, it seems like the countries are definitely stepping up. What they're willing to give Ukraine this current standoff. We know the UK has made a pledge in 2014 to help Ukraine rebuild its navy, so it has, at least a chance against massive Russian navy that is also deployed in the Black Sea. And now we know that they are willing to send more troops to help Ukrainian soldiers train and use anti-tank missiles, and possibly provide some other arms. We know that even Canada sent a small deployment of troops to Ukraine, and obviously U.S. has been the main backer of Ukraine since 2014, and we're saying that they will be willing to not only sanction Russia if it decides to invade, but also provide lethal weapons and other equipment to Ukraine to help them fight. It's looks like unlikely so far that any of the Western troops will be taking part in any combat operations. So the support seems to be right now is sending hardware and personnel and helping with expertise.
Yeah, Canada has a pretty significant and vocal Ukrainian population, part of the reason why they jumped into this. Germany's new foreign minister is meeting with her Russian counterpart in Moscow today. Germany would have an economic advantage if the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia to Germany is approved. So how do you see Germany playing into these negotiations?
For Russia, Germany is probably the main sort of voice in Europe. It's obviously a powerful EU country that has a lot of close economic ties to Russia. So whatever Germany says will have some value in Moscow and Kremlin. We know that Annalena Baerbock, who just came to Moscow after Kiev, she assured Ukrainian officials that Germany will take a stance against Russian aggressive action should any happen, and that they will not compromise Ukrainian rights and sort of livelihoods over gas pipes. So there have definitely been some reassuring words from Germany coming in, and today,
Which before I ended out, this is why we always go into prophecy, so you be not deceived, right? America's allies is going to turn on her too, right? And like I said, this is just an article I seen, as well as this video, which gives brothers an insight if you haven't been keeping up to what's going on. All right, gives brothers an insight of what's going on as far as a prophecy. And why prophecy is so important, because it keeps us on our toes, knowing that Yahweh Shai is on his way. Destruction is on his way. Right? Which Yahweh Shai and destruction is synonymous at this point in time. Yahweh Shai said he would not meet thee as a man. Right? He's going to come with the thousands of angels. Right? To put people to death. The Lord mustereth the host of the battle. Right? So the Lord is making moves And hey, we happy about this. And it goes to show us too what man of person we ought to be in. Because any day you could wake up and shit could get real. Right? So let's just finish it out and then I'm end the video.
That she's meeting her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, and the talks will largely circle around Ukraine. So Germany might become a very important voice in this conversation.
All right, Mary, thank you very much. The TSA reports a serious spike in people packing guns at airports nationwide. Airborne.
So with that, shalom to the elect.